This is my 1996 Toyota RAV4. It's a two-door manual 5-speed 4-wheel drive. It's a wonderful car. It's my favorite car I've ever owned. But it's slow, it leaks oil, and in general just doesn't have quite the cool factor that I'm looking for. So, a couple of ways to change that, and we're going to go through those right now. This is a 2AR FE. This is a 2.5 liter inline 4 from a 2012 Scion TC. There's in a bunch of other cars such as the Camry or RAV4, newer RAV4. And normally I'm a big proponent of leaving engines stock when you swap them. But this one's obviously torn apart. Reason being, there is a larger version of the 2AR available called the 1AR, which is in base model Siennas and Venzas and Highlanders. Now, the 1AR is just an incredibly rare engine, and they're pretty expensive compared to these, or hard to find. But we can, the blocks share a part number, so it's pretty easy to upgrade this to being a 2.7, and that's what we'll be going through with. In fact, as I was recording this, my crankshaft got delivered. So this is a 90, this is the stock crank. This is a 98 versus a 105 millimeter stroke, which nets us an extra 200 cc's of displacement. So the only thing different between the 2AR and the 1AR are the crank, the pistons, and the intake manifold. Now that intake manifold is not a necessary upgrade, but it is a slightly larger plenum, so you do gain a little bit of power there, a little bit of low end torque. But the blocks share part number, the heads share part number, everything internally is identical, so they're all cross-compatible there. In this video, we'll just cover how we got to this point. In the next video, I will likely be reassembling this engine and showing you how to check based on the block you have, how to order parts that you need to do this conversion.
So a lot of people have asked me why not just go with something tested like a 3S GE or a 3S GTE, and I think a big reason for that is because I've had 3S GTEs before and I know what they feel like. I've gone through a couple of them. And in this application that I'm using the car for, being a daily driver / off-roader, it's not the kind of power that I want. So other people have suggested the 3S GE, and I think that's a big upfront cost for not a huge amount of power gains over the stock 3S FE. So other options would have been something like an MZ, a 1MZ, a 3MZ, or even like a 2GR. And while the 2GR is a great engine, I love the 2GR, I have one in my MR2, that's not the right engine for the car in my opinion. It's very difficult to fit. I think that sticking with the 4-cylinder is the best option. So ultimately that kind of leaves me with a 2AZ or a 2AR. And they're both great engines. They've both been running in Camrys, TCs, and RAV4s for decades. But the 2AR is definitely the better motor of the two. And having the option of that factory stroker that I was talking about, it really is, in my opinion, the best engine to swap. And really, I want to prove that it's possible and it's potentially easy, given that it should bolt up to the E250F. And it's possible that a factory mount exists for it to make it work with the RAV4 chassis. And not to mention, all those swaps have been done before. And while I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do a swap that's tried and tested, but I think for this one, I want to figure it out on my own. I want to have the hurdles and get over them, and I think I can do it. I'm pretty sure I'm capable of it. This is mechanically a very simple swap because it bolts up to the E250F, the stock transmission, the RAV4, and it just requires one mount. Very similar in concept to the 2GR FE swap into the MR2, which is an engine that I'm also quite fond of. I've loved the car even more ever since I put that 2GR into my MR2. So in a way, I'm kind of following in my own footsteps while forging my own trail. So with that being said, the rest of this video is just going to be the rest of the disassembly of this engine, which is a pretty easy engine to disassemble. It doesn't require any kind of special tools, except for the head bolts are a 10mm double hex, so that it did require a special socket. Other than that, it's pretty simple, so feel free to keep watching to the end. I'm not going to cover the disassembly in detail, but I will cover the reassembly.